Welcome to That Davis Show. I am your host, Kenneth Davis. Follow me at That's Davis. Always fortunate enough to be joined by my partner in crime, Ryan Bukoveski. Follow him at Ryan B. Ski and Ryan B. Ski 1. Listen, this episode is dedicated to the NFL draft, particularly the Bears. I guess really perhaps the first three picks will be dominant in this discussion, the two in the second round and one in the third. It's going to be weird. And I mean, this is going to come out the day of the draft, April 28th. And I'm going to have to host the first UC show dedicated to the draft when the Bears have no picks in that round. So it's going to be interesting.
Well,
I know as of right now, and Ryan Poles insinuated in his press conference yesterday, and it's one thing Alex kept saying yesterday on our episode. Make sure you check out Under Center for NBC Sports, was you can't trust GM speak, and especially when they're so forthcoming. And Ryan Poles saying, we really want to move. We want to accumulate more picks. We want to move back. Also, one thing that Ryan Poles did say, and Alex pointed it out, which is funny, when asked what the draft was deep in, he said O linemen, D linemen, DBs, and running backs, but said nothing about receivers. All right. Mm-hmm. So just to play an example of GM speak of what what perhaps they want and what they want in the draft, but also
I got a different spin on that.
Go ahead, give me your.
I feel like you can automatically count wide receiver as one of the strongest positions in the draft. When's the last time we've had a bad receiver class?
Yeah, since offensive has changed now, you have so many more guys involved in the offense as far as more receivers out. It's a lot more guys that college football, how it's changed to a spread offense. I'm with you. It helps the 7-on-7s and everything like that, where these kids are prepared, to be in the passing game like that. So you are right. It is something that it will be odd. I'm sure we'll probably run into it one year. Will be a dearth of top talent receivers to a degree like these last few years. You know what I'm saying? Where the SEC in Alabama, particularly, LSU too, aren't just dropping a whole shebangle of receivers all over the league, basically.
Yeah, I think to your point, we're not going to always have the top tier, like bona fide top 10 receivers every year. But I just think every year you can count on the depth of the class. There's just always going to be people in every round. And I don't know if you want to maybe use this as the jumping off point for the Bears discussion, but I think that that's one of the most interesting questions going in. Like, they need to get offensive talent around Justin Fields. I'm just a huge proponent. I'm sure everybody else is basically within Chicago Bears fandom. But I'm a huge proponent that they have got to put enough around him that he can actually try to develop, and not this like, oh, let's wait till next year when we have the cap and we have the full array of picks. That's when we'll really help Justin Fields develop. They've got to put more around him, and what we've seen in free agency is just not enough. Like a few offensive linemen, even the Buffalo guy that they couldn't get. We don't know how good that guy is going to be. He's basically a backup player that's played a little bit and has potential. And we know how scary potential can be in the NFL. So for me, I'm just thinking, do you value, and I would also say just kind of happenstance or circumstance, this is probably a Dezo first draft for Ryan Poles. From what I've been hearing from analysts, that this is a scouters type draft because there's just not the obvious talent at the top. The value is really going to be in the middle rounds, maybe towards day 2, obviously some in day 3, but that's where the real value of this draft is. So it's a real scouters draft. Ryan Poles came up as a scout. This is his chance without having to, have a wealth of resources and draft picks to maybe kind of look at some projects that can develop. You obviously need some players that can help you right away, but you just never know what you're going to get with the draft. So I wonder if maybe the scouty draft, some of those positions you mentioned, Ryan Poles thinks they're deep at, which obviously the Bears have needs. Do you push back receiver as much as possible, counting on the depth within the class, and maybe focus on that position in day 3 versus day 2, where you could get a really good player in that second round? Maybe highly touted compared to some of these other guys, depending on how their board stacks up.
One of the things, and it's funny, I know I keep going back to the UC. Me and Alex were talking yesterday, and when I was saying, like, when Ryan Post said that, it kind of made me think, oh, so you're going to go O-line, maybe corner or D-line in the second round, and then the third round, you're going to pick up Alec Pierce from the University of Cincinnati.
I really like him.
I wouldn't mind. It's funny. I believe, I know I was on Sean and Maya. Shout out to Sean and Maya and Ivan. I was and everybody over there. I was on Sean and Maya, and me and Sean were talking about Alec Pierce. And the same thought I had, Sean, it came out of Sean's mouth. He was like, I think he'd be stellar as like the fourth or third receiver. You know, and we're talking about kind of leading back, talking about what you were saying about receivers coming up, and we're talking about spread offenses. So no one's saying like, you know, he would be getting reps or receptions like a fourth or third receiver, but just as far as, you know, the type of production and what you think you may expect from him, I don't know if he's that go-to dude necessarily just yet. But I'll say this.
I'm with you. I think maybe his value, though, where you could get him and how it stacks with your picks, might be your best option for a go-to guy.
It may be. And I mean, listen, this dude may be a full-on bust. All right, I'm
seen a lot of those.
I'm sold on Christian Watson, and I'm sold on the tangibles. I want to see it. I'm sorry. I want to see it with the C on the side of his helmet. I want to see it. And Christian Watson may be a straight up bust, particularly depending on where he lands. I mean, think about some of these teams that he can land. You could end up in Green Bay or in Kansas City. And I mean, chances of you being a bust are a lot less likely with those two quarterbacks throwing you the ball. I've seen him connected a lot with Jared Goff and the Detroit Lions. That's what I keep, when he hits the second round, I keep seeing the Lions pick him, but I'm like, damn it, right? Listen, but this is the problem. And I'm with you partially or with Ryan Pace and GM speak. He hasn't said anything about receiver. He's actually played it down. You know what I'm saying? Which leads you to think.
He's once again talked about Darnell Mooney.
Right. He's played it down. And why would he play it down if not because you don't want to, one, make it seem as pressing so that in hopes that teams won't, one, jump in front of you when they see you coming because they see that maybe a receiver that they want is still on the board and they see you as the only person left that may snatch that receiver up. So you may be trying to downplay it in that fashion. Also, you may be trying to downplay it in case you want to make moves so someone else perhaps won't hit you as high as they would hit you, knowing that you're either moving up or moving back, depending on what you're doing for a specific receiver or not. So, look.
Did you think that was interesting real quick? I want to say a couple things about just the press conference. He said specifically what he'd like to do is trade back. I thought that was a little bit interesting just because we haven't heard that in I don't know how long. When's the last open GM? And I wanted to kind of like give a shout out or almost like almost an appreciation, if you will, because Ryan Poles, maybe with the Larry Ogunjobi, we give him some negative points, maybe the Brian Pringle, but overall, he's probably a net neutral right now, right? Nothing stellar, nothing bad has happened. And so far through his progression as GM, he's been open. He's been exact opposite of Ryan Pace. It's been really refreshing to hear these press conferences, but nothing's happened yet. And he's about to have this draft that we're going to grade him so hard on. So it's almost like I want to just appreciate the golden boy Ryan Poles for a second, because it's about to just die and turn into like that fake gold probably.
I don't think anybody's that upset with him over Byron Pringle. Like that's not.
I'm saying
that's not what's trended in the city. Like most people, it's surprising, unfortunately, that most people are kind of like whatever, right? Most people are like, and I guess so because one, like if you, I told you before, as a kid, I was a firebug. Yeah, I also used to be a little bit of a speed demon too. You know? Right. And I mean, and a ton of white folks are like, and the amount of white people that when I talk to, they'd be like, whatever, like what? It's like, so I don't, because I'm just like, it's just funny to me because usually people get their underoos in a bunch, and everyone's kind of like, who really cares? Now, again, it's tragic that it's not tragic, but he shouldn't have his kid in the car with him. All right, depending on
And the suspended license is really bad. Like,
I don't care about no suspended license, Ryan. They used to have my license more than I have my license. Or like, I really could care.
Yeah, but you also were getting paid $1 million to be on the Bears,
dude, and that'll be even more reason why I wouldn't have had my license. And I'm rich. Are you crazy?
He's not that rich yet. He's trying to get rich with the 1-year deal.
I'm just telling you, it's something about Big Brother to a degree, trying to tell me.
I'm with you.
When it's like, dude, I'll hop out in this car when I want to. All right, like your rules do affect me.
I really don't have a big problem with the kid in the back seat. I have more of a problem with the suspended license.
I have a huge problem because look, a suspended license can't kill somebody. You That's driving true. Reckless with the kid can though, but
I'm just thinking of donuts. You know, if the kid's got the seatbelt, I don't know.
I mean, you were really.
I feel like that's a thing that a lot of people did growing up.
What?
With donuts? Like an older person, like somebody driving reckless with their kid.
I feel like for me growing up, there's something that I know I did, and a few other people was having their license suspended all the effing time.
I wouldn't even have a problem if he was a superstar or he wasn't an NFL athlete. To me, it's just like you got to show it all on and off the field to get that big check.
But listen, that a suspended license does not affect the amount of money you should be able to generate in the NFL whatsoever, in my opinion. Especially if we're not talking about
just the league. The league is, if you aren't that player, that dude, you can't be doing stuff.
Dude, these dudes beat on women.
I know. And those guys are always out unless they're a star.
Wait. I mean, hella drug. I mean, this is society. Let's like this is society captured right here. This like, so I don't care. Let me just leave off with this. I could care less about somebody who isn't drinking and driving that has a suspended license where I'm going to take you to task about your suspended license. Now, it's nice to know that you're the suspended license police. I did not know this, right?
I like how take them to task. I am just taking
them kids. Fuck them kids, but don't you be out there with us.
Right. Oh, yeah. Little firebug over here saying, oh, I feel bad for the kid. Yeah, right. You would have done the same thing.
You're like, man, the kids, they don't matter the kids in the car, but you better have your license.
Hey, what are you driving off a suspended license for?
Because it's my
I don't know why the suspended license. I don't like it.
Guess what?
I can see doing donuts in a parking lot and still doing it with the kid and not killing them every time.
But this is the thing. He wasn't in what was sent to me. One of the gentlemen on The Rush sent me this article. He's like, I'm down here in Florida, and that's a busy highway right outside of my crib, basically. Because I'm out there, I'm thinking he's on a auxiliary road or in a parking lot. I'm thinking he's somewhere where there's not a lot of traffic. And it still doesn't mean at that time there was a lot of traffic. But this dude, he was like, nah, this is a busy highway that he was on. So just pointing that out, to you, whatever, Mr. Donuts. But I'm just still saying.
Well, then, if he's a reckless driver and is a terrible driver and driving off the suspended, you don't care about anybody on the road dying? It's just the child.
No, that's different. That's different. That was my real issue, was the risk that you put other people in. But this was, again, I think we were all on the assumption that he wasn't on a busy road. And still, I
was thinking exactly what you thought, like an empty parking lot, maybe like off a side road or maybe a mainer road, but just not a busy area.
But see, the thing is this. The DMV and the state sheriffs don't own my car. So when push comes to shove, I'm going to do what the fuck I want to do. All right.
To me, I look at the kid thing as, I don't know. I don't like when parents bubble wrap their kids. I don't like I don't like that.
Junior just went flying out the side of the window.
See, why is
Good thing
Junior
he's not
flying?
bold. Good
This
thing he's not
suspended
bold.
license has no consequence, but Junior's just flying out every donut spin. Oh shit, go pick him up.
All right.
Oh shit, oh shit.
All right, let's get this show back on the tracks. Let's get back. This was a great little
was a great
side
donut.
tangent. But look, let me ask you. Let's go to you, Ryan. All right, let's focus. It doesn't have to be the first 3 rounds, but what are you looking for? Of course, we know receiver. So now hold the receiver part off, all right? Because then perhaps you can tell me the type of receiver or a particular receiver. What are you looking for within the first 4 picks? So let's just say the 2 in the second, the 1 in the third, and the one they have in the fifth
rounder. Mm-hmm.
Right, 5th rounder. So that's the heart of the middle of the draft right there. Which you were just alluding to, people saying that this is a scout's draft. You know what I'm saying? So what are you looking for? What positions? And the Bears have plenty of positions, but what positions do you think they need to come out of this draft? And if you have a player in mind that's in this draft that fits that position, please go ahead and tell me that also.
Okay. I don't have a ton of players. Like Alec Pierce came to mind. He's one of the guys, but I've just been looking at this thing as the grand scheme, the grandiose. What's the plan here? One thing that Ryan Poles said, and obviously we've discussed, it could just be a bunch of smoke. Like nobody's giving away their draft plan the day before the draft. And let me just tell the media, especially in one of the largest markets. But he mentioned something that I really liked, that my ears perked up in that conference. They're looking for best player available. That's kind of the casual GM speak, right? But what I really liked after that is it's not just best player available that's one of the main decision makers. That's what their goal is, but it's also what's the positional value and what's the positional value in the draft, this specific draft. So if, let's say, 2 tackles in the second round are available, defensive or offensive, it doesn't matter. But the next grade that you have on your next highest tackle is a 5th rounder versus, let's say, a receiver who has a 1st round grade, but your next best has maybe the grade of 2nd round. You are going to be more likely to take one of those tackles and the receiver, or both tackles, because it gives you that extra player at value, and you can still address your other need of receiver with value later on in the draft. So for me, that's the big thing I want from the Bears. I really, and we talked about this, that's one of the major questions that I have. How much do you value putting weapons around Justin Fields? I'll throw this caveat in there, though. This is, I think, a huge part of the Bears draft plan. Has nothing to do with the draft other than afterwards. There's going to be a ton of cuts per usual. We remember even like Danny Trevathan, Charles Leno, last couple of years, they had a June bonus kick in. There's a ton of players like that are going to get cut and put on the street because of the players that get drafted in this draft. Happens every year. The second wave of free agency, right? So I expect the Bears to be looking at wide receiver as a potential area in second wave of free agency, because that's an easy area where teams are going to cut a lot of guys because a lot of receivers are going to get drafted all throughout the draft. So you can potentially get a guy that's making a ton of money right now on the cheap 1-year deal. Sounds pretty familiar, right, with their plan that's been all year long in free agency, and maybe get some weapons there, while in the second, in the 2 seconds, the 3rd round, maybe you just focus on offensive line, defensive line, corner. Like those were the 3 areas that came to mind. And it was funny that Ryan Poles mentioned those specifically. And I even like running back idea too, because we both are not signing David Montgomery, right? After this year.
I love me some David Montgomery, but I mean,
No.
he would have to be giving me a hometown discount, and that's for a kid that didn't make first round money. So it would be no. I would want him to stay here. I think David Montgomery is nice. And I think last year was the only year where they really gave him a chance, and it was still disconjointed to a certain degree. But yeah, you can't give a running back money. I mean, he would have to, and it would cost maybe a bit more. He would have to rip the league to shreds this year to even think
Right.
about it.
Right.
And I
Because
would
he has no home run potential. That's the big problem. If he had home run potential, okay, we could talk, right? We could talk about Dave
Right.
Montgomery long term. But if he's not going to get you touchdowns because he breaks one tackle, because he doesn't have the speed, I think you have to move on. And why not pick up a running back late day 3?
Well, I mean, every running back doesn't have home run potential, though. Like,
No, but I'm talking about the refresh of years. Because
okay.
once he's gone, you only have Khalil Herbert under contract for a couple years besides whatever free agent
I mean,
you
you can find that. Also, well, I want to go back to your second wave of free agency. I don't know if there's going to be a great value of receiver that's desirable in that second wave, because most teams.
Well, the only caveat I want to say to that, will it be better than Byron Pringle and Aquaminius St. Brown? Could you do a little bit better than that with the second wave of free agency?
The problem, well, okay, so let me go with that. The one of the issues will be if that receiver is released, he's going to go somewhere where he knows he can shine so he can get his next contract. And as of right now, you can't trust the Bears offense because we haven't even seen what Luke Getsy's going to necessarily do and how proficient in it Justin Fields will be. So it's not necessarily perhaps an appealing destination. But also I'll say this, what a lot of teams would do, and it's kind of what we saw with Amari Cooper, if there's someone who is like, oh, there's that dude, teams are going to be like, you know what? I'm going to trade for you and not let you come on the open market, and I'll pay that next year, and then we'll see how things go from that point. And at least then I have more control over you because I can franchise tag you if I desire to franchise tag you. So that's my only – if other positions I agree with you, and I'm not going to say that there's no receiver of value that will be released, but I feel that majority of those receivers have been released because what happened, and these guys weren't going to be released, we've seen how all these guys are arguing to get their money and either have been traded and got paid or are talking about sitting out like Deebo Samuels and A.J. Brown. You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of why I don't necessarily know if that guy's going to be out there. And if he is out there, would this be the place? Unless they're talking about giving him a nice little piece of bread, or he's just a fucking Justin Fields stand. I didn't mean to use the F word. He's just it wasn't necessary. It's not that I don't want to curse. I mean, won't curse on him, but it wasn't necessary for me to use it at that point.
I'm glad you used it. I'm very happy you used it.
So that would be my only issue. And I do like, and what you mentioned, I'm enjoying Ryan Poles, and to hear him talk about having a unanimous poll because he wants to get away from groupthink, something that we know has been inferred with what Ryan Pace was doing and allegedly not liking confrontation.
Who liked Mitch Trubisky? Who liked Mitch Trubisky? Who liked Mitch? You like Mitch. You like Mitch. We all like Mitch.
Right.
Yeah. We want to keep our jobs, Ryan. Yes,
right. But it also tells you, in my opinion, that those scouts, because a lot of majority of them have been here because their calendar doesn't fall in line with the season calendar that we think. So these are a lot of Ryan Pace scouts. Some of them had to point some of this out. Now, he may have known coming into this some things he wanted to do, but there had to be somebody who's kind of like, yeah, I don't know if we really got out all of our opinions clearly in this situation, or if we really discussed it and went back and forth if we had a difference of opinion. You know what I'm saying? Right. And that's one of the best things to see, that we're going to use the difference of opinion and not just bicker back and forth, but let's find out truly why we feel like that. And then let's see if the film, if now you may see something, we may see something that you've seen now that we go back and look at it after you've said that, because initially we didn't see it the way you saw it. Right. And now as a crew, either we do see it or no, we don't see it. So that just hearing that, it seems like it should work. I keep saying this the Bears. This may not work, but I like what I'm hearing, and it doesn't seem like straight BS from him at this point in his young career as the Bears general manager. So I'm ecstatic.
I think we have the right to reserve judgment, but I'm totally with you. To me, he seems like a straight shooter. Like he just doesn't have time for the BS.
Right.
And one of the things I just love to add on to the idea of what he was saying that was just fantastic, that I forgot the reporter that asked the question, but they're like, okay, you got all this fancy, what have you, like techniques and new technologies, but what happened to good old fashioned scouting type thing? And I thought he gave a
Right.
great answer to that. It's just saying, end of day, are we getting a good football player? Because you can get way too wrapped up in the tools and the fancy resources and all these different tips, tricks to give you an advantage. But end of day, you need to get good football players on your team. And to me, we don't know because Ryan Pace never talked. He was behind a door all the time. I think he fell in love with a lot of that stuff. I think he fell in love with the tactics, the resources, and I think he kind of lost sight of what he was supposed to be doing. Getting good football players, because we would hear it all the time in draft analysis. They're getting potential. How many first rounders did he get? They're banking on potential. Kevin White. I mean, I don't even have a huge problem with the Kevin White pick. I think he slotted there based on best talent available, but it was a gamble. But it was a huge gamble.
It made no sense. We all knew his route tree down there, West Virginia, wasn't complex. No. We knew there was one receiver in that draft. If you were going to take him that high, and he was gone. So at that point, buddy, you can't go receiver.
How about Leonard Floyd? Same thing. Oh, he's got the potential. He's got the potential. Maybe he does, but we know Leonard Floyd isn't a star pass rusher in the NFL. He can be maybe a complimentary one to a star, but that's it. I mean, so many years just going on potential and the ceiling and everything. When you just, end of day, you need to get guys that you know you can contribute. And then if you get enough of those guys, more than likely a few of those will become stars because that's usually how it works. It's like baseball farm system. Get a lot of these blue chips. Not all of them are going to pan out, unfortunately. But if we can get 2 or 3 to pan out, we've done the job.
So some of the guys that keep popping up have been Kyler.
Well, real quick, what would you do with the draft strategy, the first 4 picks?
They have to get a guard. They have to get a guard. All right. There's not even a question. I would want him
I kind of want them to get tackle and maybe move one of these tackles in.
I was going to say, I would want him to be someone who has played tackle. So I had, I forgot. I had a kid the other day that I said to Alex on the rush that I had. I forgot.
Real quick, while you're looking that up, there's a guy. I don't know if you've heard of him, the Iowa Center. Have you heard of this dude? He's a guy. It doesn't really matter. I want to more so focus on the position than the player. But I thought he was very interesting when they were talking about him as a potential Bears pick, because he'll probably be in that 2nd, 3rd round area. He's a center, just center. That's all he can play. He's not a James Daniels type where maybe he could be a guard. No, he is just a flat out center. But he is insanely athletic at center. They were running center sweeps with him at Iowa. Not guard sweeps, center sweeps. He's hiking it and sweeping outside. And that sounds like the perfect fit for what the Bears are trying to get. Would you have a problem with them maybe going center and kicking Lucas Patrick to guard?
That's not a chance that pick kicking Lucas Patrick to guard. You may as well. I'm sorry. Did you see
about those words?
Did you see how the plaudits he gave Lucas Patrick?
He did. But he didn't say he's just our center. He's one of the key guys. Lucas Patrick
told you he was the center.
But if you're that rah-rah leader guy, could you kick him in?
Dude, I think we have our center, to be honest with you. I think that...
And that's fine. I'm just curious at the thought.
So this is the thing I was going to say. I'm with you on it would be nice to get a tackle that this regime believes can be a tackle and kick one of these guys in. He may not be there, but the point what I was going to make is I've been looking at guys that play guard that have played tackle too. Because one, I want to have an offensive line similar to Green Bay's, where when David Bakhtiari
goes down,
these guys go down every year, and somebody moves from
here. Hey, let's kick this guard out to left tackle, and he's playing fine.
Yeah, so I want to have, and we've seen it from how our offensive line has been injured for the last couple of seasons. So I want to have players similar to that role, especially like even if you're talking about where Jenkins or Borum, it's probably maybe Borum, gets kicked in. Okay, tackle X, right? Left tackle X, he gets chip blocked and he's hurt. You know, he has a sprained MCL or something. Larry Borum, we kicking your ass back out because we know that you can handle this for a couple. That's what I want to start seeing with this offensive line. Kind of similar to what Eberflus has said when it comes to Nick Morrow and with Roquan Smith. As far as we want to have guys. Yeah, interchangeability. Like you need to look at it like that because guys are gonna get hurt. That's just the truth. It's football, and not only sports. Look at the White Sox. It's not even a contact sport like that, and they're going down like flies. So I would want a guard / tackle. It's just about like I was looking at the percentages, and like basically it's like 60-something%, over 60-something%, I believe, or at 60. Where most guards that stay in the league are drafted in the first round. Like it goes down like dramatic. Like the middle round is like 18%, and then I think the last couple rounds it's like 11. So like out of most
offensive line is kind of weird like that. It's the same thing with like tackle, right? Like left tackle's only first round.
Guards are second to third round is where most of them are found that stick around. You know what I'm saying? But like. That's the problem to the point where what you're saying for it, because I'm with you, but maybe this is where the expertise of Ryan Poles and Ian Cunningham being former offensive linemen, we've heard over and over again, plays a part where these guys can be guys that can find the most valuable linemen, and that's tackles in the middle of the draft compared to some of these other regimes or whatever. I would hope they could be that because
supposedly he did it in Kansas City with that one dude. I'm blanking on his name, but they found some guys later.
The center. The thing. Look, if you can do what Green Bay used to do with quarterbacks, and you'd be like, "Yeah, we'll tackle you here. We got.
I'll take it.
You flipping off tackles or guards. Let's even put it like that to where." Everyone knows, or for instance, now you can trade your guard or tackle or center who's become perhaps a Pro Bowler because you have the depth behind him and it's a youngster that's ready to come up on a cheaper contract, and you can get some draft collateral or a player from another team. Then this is pie in the sky talk right now that we're talking about, but that's what I would want.
Well, that's what the elite teams do, right? So if you want to ever get in that category, you're going to need to do some of this stuff.
So
that tackle position, the history with the Bears, it's as bad as quarterback. I can't even remember the last legit Charles Leno. That was the last legitimate tackle they drafted, like in my lifetime at least. Yeah. Chris Williams, no. Mark Colombo, no.
The bad part, and it wasn't the Bears part because Colombo kept getting hurt. The bad part is that he had a decent little run in Dallas. Right there, I used to watch Cowboys games and I was be like, really? Like I was happy for him because it looked like his career was over. But
Gabe Carimi. Sorry, forgot about him as well.
Oh, yeah, don't forget about Gabe, the Karimis. So listen, the guys we've seen connected, this is from ESPN, Jordan Reed. He and everyone, even here in the city, we've seen Tyler Smith from Tulsa, the offensive tackle, connected. He had Sky Moore going to the Bears also. You have Ed Ingram, inside offensive lineman from LSU. Mel Kiper had Kyler Gordon. I'm feeling the Kyler Gordon one a little bit. Cornerback out of Washington. He again had Tyler Smith out of Tulsa. Todd McShay had Tyler Smith out of Tulsa. And he had Jalen Tolbert, a tall, lanky receiver from South Alabama. Maybe doesn't have the blow away speed, but definitely can high point the ball and jump all over players. Go ahead.
I got a guy. I don't know if he's good at all, but I want him. Smoke Monday. God, I love that name.
Sounds like something to do with 420.
That's why he's my guy.
Let me ask you, how do you feel about 420?
Just kind of whatever.
Okay, because this is like, one.
Maybe you do a little extra, but it's not like Christmas or something crazy, like Beach Day or Memorial Day weekend. It's nothing like that.
I think if you do smoke, you probably should just don't. Just let all the little newbies or whoever, especially now since marijuana is legal in states, and it's like to see people posting like "Happy 420." It's just like word, like not to say. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying it just seems somewhat lame. All right, it's like if you
honestly, what I like about it is not what you do on it. I love listening to like sports radio or just entertainment because they make a big deal out of it. They try to do everything like marijuana themed, and I'm like, oh, okay, well,
yeah, right. Out. But I just want it just crossed my mind since that 420 just passed last week,
and I mentioned Smoke Monday, my guy.
So what? Smoke Monday? Well, he has to be a cornerback. Is he a cornerback?
He is a corner, I believe.
Like you have to be a cornerback with a name like Smoke Monday. Even though I don't know
Georgia.
I don't know if you want to be a corner. I don't know if you want to be a corner and their first name is Smoke. Is it Smoke or Smoked?
It is present tense.
Okay. It's like you got smoked. Like, how does that work?
I'm sorry, he is a safety labeled in NFL.com prospects.
Oh, well, no, hell no. I don't need a safety that bad. Listen, he better be an all-star.
He got the 4.5 40-yard dash.
If they take a safety, he better be great. Because we have so many. Now, again, a positional value, but one is safety.
Well, that is one thing I wanted to ask you. How do you balance, like, Matt Eberflus is Matt Eberflus is the defensive wizard. And we've talked about this. The media's talked about this. Bears analysts have talked about this. Lean on the old head coach and take away some of the players because the scheme and the coaching and all that stuff is going to get the most out of these players, and you focus on offense. Just based on the draft, second, third round, that might be a great spot to get a corner and a 3 technique. What do you weigh getting those versus maybe an offensive guy?
I'm all for looking for another 3 technique because I don't know which Justin Jones supposed to be perhaps playing better here, how they're going to use him. And they did give him at least a 2-year deal, so it's not a 1-year try-it deal. But it's still not Larry Ogunjobi because, again, if you're like,
he can maybe still come back on a 1 year, maybe.
Ogunjobi got him with the sack. Jones sacked him. It's just not the same.
I know. I wanted that Ogunjobi.
Ogunjobi! Like, it's just not the same.
Come on, 1-year deal. Let's go.
I'm with you. But see, think about it. So Larry Ogunjobi would be like, so what? You played me, you fucked me over to get my value down. So you can it doesn't make sense.
What do you want? The doctor said no. What are you gonna do?
See, man, listen. You have to think about it. They still told him, and I don't put it on Ryan Pace what happened with Larry Ogunjobi. Now, maybe down the road we find out more, and there's more fault.
You know what? I take it back. Let's put it all on Ryan Pace. You're right. This is his fault somehow. He ruined that free agent.
Okay, it's cool with me. Go for it. But still, if I'm Ogunjobi, because of this, no one signed me. So I could look at it as that you played me, right? And I'm not to say that he does, but why would? And then look, why would I trust you? Gave me your word, regardless of if you knew or didn't. You still told me I was going to be signed to you. So how can I trust you? So I mean, there's so many questions now. As a Bears fan, I would love for Larry Ogunjobi to sign with the Bears, but I always try to have empathy and look at it through someone else's eyes. And if I'm Larry Ogunjobi, even if Ryan Pace was being upfront and honest, and I believe he's being honest, I'm still to a degree like fuck him. You know what I'm saying? Like because like you just
but don't you just kind of have to have that because that's the league. You got to have a healthy fuck him.
You do especially with management. So. It's like, so I listen, again, as a Bears fan, I would love it. Especially now when you're talking about you have Justin Jones and Larry Ogunjobi. You don't even have to really worry about the interior of the line. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But as far as what Ogunjobi does, looking at it from his side, I could see why he wouldn't. I would listen. If they could come, what if the medicals start to look better? It'd be great. Like, what if in by training camp? So we're talking about 2 months away, right? Basically a healthy 2 months away. What if Larry Ogunjobi's foot, the x-rays or whatever, are significantly different from how they looked a month ago, right? And you can now say, all right, I may not give you exactly what I was going to give you, but I can get a lot closer to it because now I can see your foot is healed enough and it's going down the right direction. So
And maybe that's the plan with them. Maybe they've even talked about both camps.
I'm sure.
Talk to me on training.
I'm sure he's mentioned because I mean, like again, I mean, and I'm sure now Ogunjobi's looking at it as now I have to wait and see who gets hurt, where am I going to be, you know what I'm saying, whatever.
And to your point, he's kind of like almost like forced to be with the Bears in a way because that's the team that was willing to give him the money,
right?
And if no one else has come with the money, they sort of need to still be in that camp.
I mean, now listen, think about this too. The Bengals haven't won. Now they resigned what Hall, his line mate. But they didn't re-sign him, and he's out for the cheap. And they know him better than us. You know what I'm saying?
So he was stellar with them, you know?
Right.
Like, he wasn't just nothing.
So, but now, let me say this. So if he has a chance to go anywhere, why not go back to the team that made it to the Super Bowl and you didn't even get to play because of your foot? Right? Like, so it's just, I'm talking out loud while I'm thinking, while we're going through this exercise. You know what I'm saying? But it's, I mean, I would hope so.
Ryan Bowles would be impressed.
But yeah, so look, to get to your question, definitely I would probably want to see a defensive lineman involved in this draft high. When I say high, that can be perhaps the fifth, because you could look for a one-trick pony and hope that he can learn another trick. You know what I'm saying? So he could be a guy that will pretty much primarily, I want him to be a guy that can rush the quarterback from in either the interior of the line or on the edge of the line. You know what I'm saying? Like that will make the most sense to me. You have, now they may not see that, you got some run graders. We still have Kyrus Tonga here as far as guys that you just want to necessarily to stop the run. And you have Muhammad that you brought over from the Colts as your run stuffer at the end, right?
And supposedly your scheme, right? Scheme's going to have everybody running faster, playing freer, and should equal better play.
But I want to see an offensive lineman, even though it's not sexy. I want to see a cornerback. I want to see someone who can start opposite side of Jalen Johnson.
For me, at the very least, a true slot corner that you can depend on.
I think they think that's going to be Young, the kid they signed from the Ravens. I think
he's been injury prone.
I'm with Lou. Don't believe you me. I know, right? Like I think that's how they envision him being that guy primarily. I think they're looking that they need another guy on the outside. You know what I'm saying? But I think
they do.
Yeah. But I mean, I think they think that Young perhaps can be that guy as of right now. I'm just being honest with you. Also, now those are some of the second wave of free agency guys that you may be able to get your hands on. You know what I'm saying? Like DBs, you know what I'm saying? Definitely, maybe even interior defensive linemen. You know what I'm saying? They seem like they're set on linebackers, damn sure linebackers, because teams gonna come and be like, man, you gonna take this pay cut? You know what I'm saying? Like, what you gonna we want to restructure your deal? You know what I'm saying?
Look at Danny Trevathan. Look at
what you gonna do?
Charles Leno. I mean, if you've got cap issues and this is a chance to get under the cap, that's why there could be some real interesting free agents. To your point, do you want to come to the Bears, who are probably going to be 6-11 this year or something terrible? But I would say to that, like at least with your receiver example, I mean, they got to throw the ball at somebody. You only really have Darnell Mooney. You could get a lot of targets, and that's one way to make your money back.
Okay. You got anything else? Because I think we can actually close this out. You got anything else? Do you want to add to this? I got a question for you to close this out. Give me your guy. Give me your guy that was. It's not going to be a apples to apples comparison, but was going to make you jump over joy like you did when the Bears moved up to 11 last year. So I'm not. It's nothing can capture the Justin Fields feeling. But what player in this draft, if they say the Chicago Bears select so and so, would you be over the moon for?
That's a good question. Are we trying to keep it realistic?
Yes.
Give me yours first. I'll give you my guy.
Everyone knows mine. It's Christian Watson.
Oh, that's right. You're done. That's right.
I'm team measurables here, man. Like I know if we get him, he gonna be a bust. It's like, it made too much sense. but he has an unsophisticated route tree. Yeah, I know. I know. I'm going down the wrong path here, and I know it, but I'm going down it anyway.
I mean, I guess the guy that I've had from the start, I just don't think it's realistic, was Chris Olave from Ohio State. I really think he's going to be a dude in this league personally. So I really like him, but I don't see him even getting to the 20s. That would be the guy. If he starts falling, I'd be thinking about riding up. But I really don't want the Bears to ride up. I really don't.
Okay. All right.
You asked me who's my guy, that I would go crazy.
We said realistic, though. Didn't you ask?
Can he
realistic?
fall? Can he have like the gas mask, like Laremy Tunsil?
Which he's making an NFT off of now. But which is still, listen, whoever put that out draft day on Laremy Tunsil is the devil of the ass of the devil.
I agree with you, but I don't have a problem with it because Laremy is winning so hard since that moment. I am just happy for that young man.
But his rookie deal would have been crazier. I mean,
but I forgot what he has like been worth, like 5 first-round draft picks. He's made like an insane amount of money.
That's because of Bill O'Brien.
But when you tally up everything that he's been involved in, he has a very unique ass earnings and career trading profile.
You're right. So, all right. Definitely I'll look for the Bears to get an offensive lineman, a receiver, and either a DB. No, either a cornerback or a defensive lineman, I believe. And I'll say this, perhaps that cornerback may be a return person too.
Can we just not be scratching our heads? I really just don't want to be scratching my head at 30.
You may be scratching your head though. I mean, like this
I hope it's not like running back.
Okay. Oh hell!
What are we doing here? That's what I'm saying. Something crazy.
If it's a running back,
linebacker, San Diego State.
Just shut the whole Hallis Hall down. If it's a running back, all right, just shut it all down, man. I'm just gonna unplug. I'm gonna just start unplugging stuff and wrapping up cord or whatever. It's a running back. You're gonna leave
Alex Brown high and dry.
I'm out. AB. I'm out. All right, that's it for that Davis show. We'll be back after the draft. Probably we'll record on Sunday, probably, but you'll get it on Monday. So it'll be our thoughts on all the Bears draft selections, Ryan and myself. Always make sure you stay positive for the most part and pick yourself up. We always appreciate it. And don't do anything crazy before you hear from us again.